So I don't, again, I think that every child is different. I think that that question can depend upon a number of factors. Is CAS the only diagnosis? Does the child have other diagnoses that would cause them to maybe be less self-aware? Or, is there a diagnosis that impacts their cognitive processes, the way that their brain processes information in addition to CAS, because technically CAS is a neurocognitive speech disorder. But, are there other neurodevelopmental processes that play a part to maybe that child not recognizing that they are different?
My experience, of course, this really depends on the individual child, but I have certainly seen children as young as the age of 2 indicate that talking is really hard and difficult for them, and to be aware of that difference, that something that seems very easy for other people and peers is not easy for them, and that I've seen some signs like avoidance, shutdown, extreme shyness, and as well as the child just communicating in other ways and indicating that their mouth isn't doing what they're wanting it to do. So definitely seen it as young as age 2, but will really depend on the child.
The youngest child I've met with CAS or suspected CAS has been not yet 2 years old. And already at the time that I met that child, they recognized things about themselves that were different than things about other people and other children. And so you could, kind of put this in the context of anything your child recognizes about themselves. I have a young son who's not yet 2, and he knows very, very well things about himself already. He knows that he likes certain activities and he doesn't like others. He likes to be carried sometimes and he likes to walk other times. And that's something about him that's unique to him and very different than his young cousin who's of a similar age.
Our personal story, honestly, probably by the time she was 2 or 3, she knew that she was different. She didn't have a great deal of intelligible speech, but she could speak well enough for her to tell us that we didn't understand her. And, there were many tearful days and nights for her, for us. Sometimes she would cry and I would cry right along with her. And then other times she would cry and I would walk away and close the door and cry behind a closed door. But I think for us, we had to have that conversation early on.
I've seen some 2-year-olds who understand that when they are talking and people don't understand them, they will shut down completely, because it's better for them not to say anything at all than it is for them to try and for people to not understand them. I have a 2-year-old who can understand that they have difficulty being understood. I have to get them to trust me, to be able to be willing to help, let me help them do the hard work. And that takes really building rapport. And then when I'm asking them to do hard things, it's that much more difficult, and I'm more likely to see them shut down or not be willing to try. And then I have to go back to building that rapport so that they can trust me that we can do this together. For my older kids, where they've been in speech therapy for a long time, they may understand that they have childhood apraxia of speech, but they have a lot to say. They want to talk to people. When they go to talk and people don't understand them, they may not grasp that other people can't understand them. It's hard, because then I have to give them the feedback of that wasn't understood, or how can we recognize when people don't understand us? What can we do to help support our articulate the speech sound so that way people can understand us?
Yeah, so we didn't want her to internalize her differences as brokenness, or to feel othered in any type of way. So I don't think, from my memory, that we actually told her the name of the diagnosis, because we knew that it wouldn't really matter to her. She just needed a reason to know why she was experiencing life the way that she was and why she had to work so hard.
I have also found that for some of our kids that we start looking at an AAC device, because intelligibility is so impaired. It's hard for them because they think everybody can understand them. and they want to speak like all of their friends. But we as related service providers or parents have to be able to get them to understand that others do have difficulty understanding them.
The way we explained it to her was, you know, the way that you hear people sound when they talk different languages, you know, it's different. It's not bad. And so when you have apraxia, you sound different, but it's not bad. It's just different. And everybody has differences. Some people do really well with math problems, and some people do really well with spelling. And just because they're good at that one thing doesn't mean that they're good at everything. And so, and normally when people have an area where, you know, they have to work harder, it just means that they have to practice more until they get better at it. And so we kind of translated the message that way. Your speech is not bad, it's not broken, it's different. And with practice and with speech therapy, it'll get better. I think it's being innovative, it's understanding your child's needs, it's understanding what your child is capable of understanding, and how do you give the message to your child in an age appropriate and developmentally appropriate way. And so I think that, you know, if I was a parent and maybe I hadn't kind of figured out, you know, ways to explain it, you know, through using metaphors or comparisons, I probably would have had that conversation with her speech therapist. But, you know, I think the thing that happened that really helped us was, again, that she was already listening to people who talk differently than her. And so it was very easy for us to say, well, do you understand what they're saying when they talk to you? You know, do you understand this Chinese, you know, dialect? Do you understand this French person when they're talking? No. Okay. Well, when people don't understand you, you know, it's kind of the same thing.
So whether they're young and they can understand that people have difficulty, or they're older and they may not fully understand that, we need to meet the kids where they are so that we can support them, so that way they can have the social connections and the communication abilities with peers, with adults, with anybody that they're willing to.
Apraxia is a part of our identity. It's how we communicate, and children start to communicate very young. And so if they're trying to communicate or have the wish to communicate and something is creating a barrier for them, most likely they're aware in their own way and at their own age level of appropriateness. What's happening to them is different than what happens to other children who communicate. And so again, that's not a bad thing. Sense of self is a really good thing. We want our kids to have sense of self. We want them to be aware. And although it can be very hard to watch our children navigate a struggle, and certainly a struggle like CAS is a big struggle to navigate sometimes, having that sense of self early means that we also have the power to give them a strong positive sense of self, both about their communication and about other things that have to do with their life, things that they're really good at, things that they're not so good at, but they have to work for, but eventually they can get good at them. We can give them power to really own their CAS as part of their identity and who they are early on. And that's a nice skill that they can carry forward through their journey, through their entire life. Whether CAS continues to impact them the same way across that journey, it probably won't, but they'll carry with them all of those tools that they've learned from that young age when they began to recognize, this is something about me that's different than other people, and that's okay.